Hello, pioneers. I'm Bodie.
I'm Langston.
I'm Ethan.
And I'm Emorja.
All of us in the Richard Warren Middle School Drama Club have been working on a little play entitled Peddler, Polly, and the Story Stealer. This play was written by Aaron Shepard, who wrote and adapted the play as a Reader's Theater piece. We wanted to give Mr. Shepard credit for his story and thank him for allowing us to use his play.
Lexico.com defines Reader's Theater as a style of theoretical performance in which actors may read from the script or text and which places less emphasis on props, costume, physical interaction, etc. than traditional theater. Actors usually sit and read lines with the use of costumes, props, or blocking in this type of drama. But our drama club wanted to take things a little further and make the experience in performing this play a little more fun and memorable.
Peddler Polly is a cautionary tale about the digital world that we are currently living in and how overwhelming it can be. It highlights the dangers posed by technology when it leads to less and less face-to-face communication, or what they call story swapping. Our computers and cell phones can suck our time away, and we are not practicing important life skills when we are lost in the digital world, constantly staring at our screens.
We want to give a huge thank you to our tech crew who have worked to create scenery, props, and costumes for this performance. We'd also like to highlight the cast members. We have worked and rehearsed for these last few weeks to prepare for this. Because of COVID, we will not be able to perform in front of a live audience. Mr. Brown from Leavenworth High School generously offered his time and expertise to assist us in filming. We want to thank him for all his help. We also want to thank a group of LHS kids, the leading one being Sydney Woody. These examples and encouragement inspired us all on the cast of Peddler Polly. Thank you guys. We hope you all enjoy our interpretation of Peddler Polly and the Story Stealer.
Peddler, Polly, and the Story Sucker, Act 1, Scene 1.
Welcome to Tail Town. Goods bought here and sold there.
That was the sign on Peddler Polly's cart as her horse pulled her up Main Street. Peddler Polly looked around and smiled.
I'm sure glad to be back in Tail Town. Imagine a town where everyone tells stories.
Peddler Polly turned to the town square. Over on Cromwell, she saw a notice.
Story swap today. Bring a story. If you still know one.
If you still know one?
Hello, Peddler Polly.
Came a sad little girl's voice.
Well, it's my old friend Penny. Do you have a good story for me? I'll gladly trade you something for my cart.
Penny sobbed and sniffed.
I don't have any stories at all. Hardly anyone in Tailtown does. We're all losing our stories.
Losing your stories? Whatever do you mean?
We start to tell a story and then it's gone. We can't remember it anymore. Come to the story swap this afternoon and see.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
A narrow crowd has parked on the square. Its sign said,
Dr. Sebastian Spellbinder. Entertainment, paraphernalia.
In the cart stood a man with a top coat, top hat, and goatee, surrounded by piles of wooden boxes.
A crowd was gathering before him.
You've heard of a storybook, and you've heard of a storyteller. Well, I'm here to show you something finer still. The brand new, patented Spellbinder Storybox.
"Oh, Peddler Polly, he's selling stories." Dr. Spellbinder held up one of the wooden boxes, showing a pan of glass on one side.
He flipped the switch, and the glass came to life. Tiny characters moved across the plane, and tiny voices came out.
Someone in the crowd yelled,
That's Cinderella.
Dr. Spellbinder turned a knob and a different moving picture appeared.
That's Puss in Boots. He turned the knob again.
That's Sleeping Beauty.
Never again will you have to ask for a story, and never again will you have to imagine the pictures. Who will be the first to buy a Spellbinder Storybox?
I'll take one.
So will I.
I'll take two.
Before long, Dr. Spellbinder's cart was empty. The town square was covered with children and grown-ups, all staring blankly at little boxes.
I don't like the looks of this.
Peddler, Polly, and the Story Sucker, Act 2.
When Peddler and Polly arrived at the story swap that afternoon, Town Hall was packed. The room was buzzing with talk about lost stories and spellbinder story boxes.
Finally, Maya Bertha Bigwig took the stage. She glanced nervously around her.
Welcome to the Story Swap. It's my honor to tell the first story, The Pied Piper of Hamelin.
From her seat by an open window, Peddler Polly heard a soft whir and sucking noise.
Life in the town of Hamelin was pleasant, or it would have been if not for the
mayor turned pale.
I've lost my story.
And she ran from the stage. A horrified murmur rose in the room.
Milton Marbles, the school teacher, tried next.
My story is Jack and the Beanstalk.
Again, Peddler Polly heard the whir and the sucking.
There was once a poor widow who had an only son named. Oh no!
He fled the stage in tears.
Next came Penny.
This is the myth of Pegasus.
Peddler Polly heard the noises once more.
A long time ago, in Greece, there was a special horse called Pegasus. This horse was special because...
Stop the swap. We can't afford to lose any more stories. It's the end of storytelling in Tailtown.
As a silent talk filled the room, Peddler Polly thought she heard a cackle out of the window.
She looked and saw a man with a top coat and a top hat hurry away from the building. He carried a large wooden box covered with switches, knobs, and dials with a long hose attached to it.
It's Dr. Spellbinder. I'd better look into this.
Peddler Polly and the Story Sucker. Act 3, Scene 3.
Peddler Polly hastened from the hall. She followed Dr. Spellbinder from a distance as he left the town and made his way into the hills.
At last, Dr. Spellbinder disappeared through the mouth of a cave. Peddler Polly followed him in and stopped in astonishment.
Dr. Spellbinder sat at a workbench covered with story boxes and other strange devices. He set down the big box he was carrying and patted it fondly.
3 more stories to put into my story boxes, and all thanks to my brilliant invention, the Spellbinder Story Sucker. Soon I'll steal all the stories in the world, and everyone will need a story box, and I'll be rich, rich, rich!
Not if I can help it.
Peddler Polly, what are you doing here?
Putting an end to your evil plan, Spellbinder.
You'll never stop me, Peddler Polly.
Then Dr. Spellbinder grabbed the story sucker and sprinted from the cave.
Down the hill sped Dr. Spellbinder, while Peddler Polly puffed in pursuit. Without the story sucker, Peddler Polly was faster.
You won't catch me so easily.
He lifted the lid on the story sucker and reached in.
See how you like this story, Peddler Polly.
He threw something behind him. There was a flash of light. Out of nowhere, a huge crowd of children appeared, coming uphill towards Peddler Polly.
Well, I'll be.
Peddler Polly pushed past the startled man and pressed through the crowd of memorized children.
It's a catchy tune, kids, but I wouldn't follow Pied Pipers.
Dr. Spellbinder was far ahead, but Peddler Polly ran hard and gained on him.
One good story deserves another.
And he reached into the story sucker. Another flash, and Peddler Polly saw a boy chopping down a gigantic beanstalk. But just then, the boy took to his heels calling,
Heads up!
Peddler Polly looked up and stood up just in time. A huge man tumbled from the sky, landed with an earth-shaking crash just before her.
I didn't know stories could be so dangerous.
Peddler Polly ran around the giant while she waved to the boy and called,
Thank you, Jack!
Dr. Spellbinder had vanished behind a hill, and Peddler Polly panted after him. As she rounded the bend, she gasped.
tied to a landing platform was a lighter-than-air balloon, and Dr. Spellbinder was climbing into the basket.
Oh no! Now he'll get away for sure! Unless...
It's all over now, Peddler Polly.
Dr. Spellbinder untied the rope and the balloon floated into the air.
But I still have one more story to tell, and I might as well keep you busy.
If it's the one I think it is...
Dr. Spellbinder threw it to the ground. Another flash, and there stood a horse with long, graceful wings.
Pegasus!
Peddler Polly ran and leaped onto the horse and dug in her heels.
The horse flapped its wings smoothly and rose in the air, and up it spiraled, until it was flying circles around the dismayed Dr. Spellbinder.
Guess you forgot your mythology, Spellbinder. Didn't you know Pegasus was a flying horse?
Peddler Polly rode in close, grabbed Dr. Spellbinder, and flung him across the horse's back.
My story sucker!
Cried Dr. Spellbinder as the balloon floated away with his inventor.
You won't need it where you're going, Spellbinder. For a crime like shutting up stories, a judge is sure to shut you up, unhappily ever after.
Peddler Polly and the Story Sucker. Last scene.
A few weeks later, when all of Dr. Spellbinder's story boxes had been opened and the stories returned to their tellers, the people of Tailtown held a big storytelling festival on the town square. Mayor Bigwig announced,
Our special guest for today is Peddler Polly.
Well, thanks. Now I'll tell a story called Peddler Polly and the Story Stealer.
And that's a tale
They always tell.
In Tailtown.
The end.